Ashok Khurana, who's Director General of the Association of Power Producers. Now, Mr. Khurana, firstly, to begin with, thanks very much for joining us on the show. Now, there's been a lot of news surrounding the power sector, and private power producers, in fact, last Wednesday met the Prime Minister's Principal Secretary, Mr. Pulak Chatterjee. Tell us what the key takeaways from that meeting were.
See, we met the Prime Minister's Principal Secretary to take stock of what has been done in last about 1 month since our meeting with the Prime Minister on the 18th January. If you know, they have already passed a directive to Coal India Limited to sign the FSAs for about 60,000 megawatt of projects which are commissioned and about to be commissioned in next 2-3 years. Now, this has actually saved 60,000 of projects becoming NPA. We wanted to find out the modalities of operationalizing this decision of Prime Minister and how will the import take place, logistics, pricing. Along with that, other issues were the issues around the imported coal, the pricing issue. Then we had the issue revolving the gas allocation. Unfortunately, we saw in the EGOM yesterday, no gas has been allocated to power sector. This will in fact render about 9,000 megawatt of power stranded over there, and these promoters will have to go back to the bankers to restructure their loans. There was the issue of the benefits in the forthcoming budget, and the main issue in that was government thinking of imposing import duty on the imported equipment, because we spoke to them and apprised them that this step would increase the cost of equipment by almost about 30%, because since the report of Planning Commission, which had suggested such imposition, the rupee has depreciated to about 15%. So actual impact on the equipment would be about 30% over there. This will in turn increase the cost of power, and consumers will suffer. Linked with this was the issue of distribution companies who are unable to make payments for the power, and because of their financial health cannot afford to buy power moment it gets slightly expensive because of blended option or of imported coal. These are main issues we discussed with them.
Sure. Mr. Khurana, we are seeing gas and coal supply constraints, and domestically there are limits when imports are as such as well. In such a scenario, how are independent power producers looking to tackle this?
See, my dears, coal supply can be tackled by augmenting domestic coal production to an extent and importing the deficit. Because if deficit is limited to about 20-25% and the price increase is spread over the entire base, then the increase in power cost is not very significant, and it can easily be coped up over there. This is what we suggest, and that's what government is thinking of, augmenting their domestic base by asking Coal India to increase the domestic production, by taking coal excess from state and central mines who do not need it, or those not be allocated. In that context, we also suggested that they could even take the excess coal from the private mines. There was a mismatch between the mining plan and the project coming up. Now, if you recall, the main dispute or the main contention of government has been on this count, on the ground of pricing. At what pricing the excess coal would be transferred? In that connection, we have suggested the concept of banking of coal to obviate the need for pricing, fixation and issues revolving around that. What they could do is to take the coal from the private developer, and in return, when his projects are ready, give back the coal over there.
Right, Mr. Khurana, give us the extent to which the fuel shortfall that the power sector is facing currently, and what would the requirements of private players be in the next financial year and even in the year after that?
See, FY13 and 14, I think power sector requirement will range approximately around 400 million tons. That's the approximate requirement I'm taking the projects which have come up after FY09, about 26, and another about 10,000 megawatt coming up in the next year over there. That will be the approximate requirement. And deficit, we think, will be approximately about 40-45 million tons of the coal over there, if Coal India does not ramp up the domestic coal production.
And what is the idle capacity due to the fuel supply shortfall?
As on today, it's about 25,000 megawatt, but it's set to increase. And if you add to it the gas, this is I'm talking of coal base, now by March 31st, there are about, I think, 6,000 megawatt of gas-based projects coming on the steam. They will not be able to operate, so we'll add this capacity. By the end of this March, the idle capacity would become about 30,000 megawatt, working at suboptimal capacity. I wouldn't say completely idle.
But Mr. Khurana, that now the EGOM on gas has maintained a status quo as far as gas allocation is concerned. Now this must clearly have come as a disappointment to private players. Were you hopeful that there would be some sort of a change in allocation as far as this goes?
No, it was a very big disappointment, because all these projects, if you recall, had come up after EGOM's categorical assurance in 2009 and 10 beginning, that please put up the gas-based projects and we'll provide you the gas. So all these developers put up these gas-based generation projects, thinking moment they get commission, they'll get the gas. Now, no gas because of KG Basin output shortfall. But they have left these developers stranded. And now there's no way out for them except to go back to their bankers and ask for restructuring of loans. Now we can only request the government that if you can't give us gas, at least make sure these assets are not declared NPAs.
And another concern is that the government is proposing to make it compulsory to source equipment from indigenous manufacturers for companies setting up ultra-mega power projects in the country. Could this be a significant cause of worry if it came into effect?
No, this is going to be, if they do it, it's a very, very retrograde step. Because my idea is UMPPs have been designed to come up with the best tariff for consumer. That is integration of mining and power generation. Now, at one hand, we're trying to reduce the tariffs so that power becomes affordable. On the other hand, by restricting competition for equipment, you are taking away that important component of competition. Because power equipment, that is boiler, turbine, and the generators and other things, they almost contribute 75% of the project cost. So you will have the project cost going up by almost about 25-30%. And it's not only the project cost. Question today is we are capital scarce also. When we import equipment, we also import with the equipment capital. Like in case of Mudra, you have Korean credit. In case of most of the Chinese units, you have credit. From the GE, we're given gas turbines, they have given US Exim credits. So we are short of capital also. So you're actually cutting out a very important source of debt capital for country. So if you have the combined effect of increasing capital cost, increasing equipment cost, it will impact the power cost almost about 55 to 60 paisa a unit. You are making power more non-affordable to consumer. There is no rationale in that move by any chance.
And lastly, Mr. Khurana, by the next financial year, or rather the year after that, how much of the country's fuel deficit do you believe is likely to be met by imports?
See, we have done our rough calculation. In case Coal India continues with business as usual, that is, they indicated initially that they will be only able to add about 25 million tons extra every year, which gives power about 20 million tons of coal. Then the deficit by end of the 12th plan will be approximately at 250 million tons over there.